Howdy, howdy. My name is John, and this video is the best and worst reads of 2023. Now, I'm going to start with the worst reads so we can end the video on a high note. And I only have five books to talk about on my worst reads. Three of these books I actually gave 3 stars to. At number 5 is Ball Lightning by Cixin. Now, the fact that this book even makes a worse list for me is actually a pretty strong indication of the good reading year that I had. This book, it has some good ideas. The pacing was off a bit for me. It's also the characters. There's something quite not right with that novel. But still, you can kind of see, uh, this is one of Lou's early works, and you can see the brilliance that's there. And while this is the only work of his that I've read, I'm looking forward to reading The Three Body Problem and the sequels to that novel. I've heard a lot of good things about those, so I'm definitely encouraged by reading more of his work. Coming in at number 4 on my list is a BookTube favorite. It's Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I enjoyed this novel. I mean, it's a fun, light-hearted, easy reading novel. The problem is, at least for me, is that this novel did some things that I've kind of seen a trend in kind of modern fantasy and science fiction that I just don't care for. It had some kind of plot resolutions that I just didn't care for. And so, I mean, I certainly understand why this book is as popular as it is, and I don't want to discourage anybody from reading it. But for me, it was the fourth worst book that I read this year. Next on this list is Hasan by Piers Anthony. I know, I'm putting a Piers Anthony book on my worst list. You can pick your jaw off the floor now. I'm sure you'll hear his name again later. But as for me, this book just didn't work as well as most of the rest of Anthony's books do. Again, this was a 3-star read for me. Um, the pacing's good. I enjoyed reading it. I just didn't really care for the main character. And the story itself, I didn't find all that interesting. Next on my list is a book that I did actually give 2 stars to, and overall, I did not enjoy reading it. Were actually some good ideas in the novel. It ended strongly. Um, the biggest problem was that this novel was just too long, and there's far too much of it that I found uninteresting. This book is Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. It's the first book in the Sun Eater series. This is actually a buddy read with Ian from B&B Books and Jose at Jose's Amazing Worlds. And they did a really good discussion video on this book. They also had problems with the book, and especially Jose's review kind of echoed a lot of the problems that I had. So I'll link that review in the description. That's spoiler free. And then that way, if you're interested in the book, you can kind of get a good idea of the problems that Jose had with it, by extension that I had with it, and decide whether or not it's a book. The last book on my list, I really did not enjoy at all. It had some elements that I enjoyed, mostly because, it's set kind of in the 1920s, and so I enjoyed kind of the historical aspects of it. But I really didn't like the main character at all. I mean, he's basically a jerk, and I just don't like characters like that. Actually, this is a case where the movie is better than the book, as far as I'm concerned. What am I talking about? This is The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. This was a book that was a group read sponsored by the Black Hearts Book Club that is hosted by Very Literary Carrie. And, you know, had an excellent discussion about the book. And, there are people that really enjoy this novel, and I can kind of understand why. Um, but not only did I not like the main character, but mysteries really aren't my favorite genre. So this book just kind of left me cold. Now let's get to the good part of the list. Let's get to the 10 best novels that I read in 2023. Coming in at number 10 is Apocalypse. This is book number 47 in the Xanth series by none other than Piers. I did enjoy this Xanth novel, not quite as much as I did some of the previous Xanth novels. I really think Anthony has really gotten in the groove with the last 5 to 7 Xanth novels that he's written. He's done a really excellent job telling these stories. These are among the finest in the Xanth series. I mean, there's a long stretch in the middle of books that are just okay. Fortunately, he got over that hump, and he's writing some of his best work right now. Number 9 is the Stygian collection. This was edited by Rhiannon, and this is a collection of short stories by author tubers. A lot of these authors I was not familiar with. There were a handful that I were. Some of them, like Jeremy Fee, I've read his stories before, and some of them I had not read any of their stories before. Overall, this is an excellent collection. I gave this 4 stars. Everything from this list, I did give 4 stars. I did actually have 2 5-star reads this year, but they were both rereads for me, and they were books of the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. And typically, when I do these best reads, I don't include rereads, so that's why you won't hear uh, those novels in this list. Number 8 was Anxious People by Frederik Backman. Backman is someone I've actually read a lot of, more last year. I've only read one of his novels this year, but he has a very enjoyable writing style, and I did really enjoy this story. Number 7 is The Four Agreement by Miguel Ruiz. This is a self help book, and it talks about 4 agreements that a person makes with himself. And if a person can keep these 4 agreements, it helps to live a happy life. I found the 4 agreements themselves to be really solid advice. This book isn't perfect, but it is something I would recommend people picking up and try. It's not a thick book, and so you can get through it fairly quick. Number 6 is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Now, this novel actually is a portal fantasy, and it spends a lot of time in the first half of the novel or so, maybe even 2/3 of the novel, in the real world. And I actually enjoyed this real world story more than I did the actual fantasy part of the story. Part of the problem with the fantasy part is that it actually kind of goes at a little bit too quick of a pace, which is rare for me to complain about a quick pace. But overall, this was a really enjoyable novel. I did give it 4 stars because it's not perfect, but I did really enjoy it. Number 5 on this list is Half Human Heroes, edited by Jeremy Fee. Now, this is a collection of booktubers and author tubers, and everybody in this collection I was familiar with, some not as much as others. But again, that kind of helped, probably gave a little bit of bias to me reading these stories, is because I knew the people that had written these stories, at least as well as you can know somebody by watching videos on YouTube. But I did really enjoy this story. Again, a 4-star collection, and I do highly recommend. Number 4 on this list is Statesman. This is the 5th book in the Bio of a Space Tyrant series. Um, this book actually wound up being my favorite in the series. It's the conclusion of the kind of original series of books. There was a 6th book that did kind of follow this book. Um, and that 6th book actually takes the perspective of Hope's sister, Spirit. Um, That book actually probably would have also made my worst list as well. It would have come in as number 6 on my worst read of the year. Book number 6 did. Unfortunately, the sixth book is mostly a recap of the first 5 books. There is some original material in there, just not enough to make it really a good read. But as far as Statesman, it's an excellent conclusion to the series. You really get to see the character in his final moments, and really clever writing. Number 3 on this list is 1 Second After by William Forstchen. This book was a buddy read with my fiance. It's one of her favorite books. For me personally, it suffers a bit in comparison to one of my all-time favorites, which is Alas Babylon by Pat Frank. Um, 1 Second After is basically a modern day retelling of Alas Babylon. And to be completely honest, the Forstchen does a really good job modernizing that story. But because I'm so familiar with Alas Babylon, I can see where the inspiration come from. And for me, it fell, just short of the brilliance of Alas Babylon. So a 4-star novel, but I really did enjoy it. Number 2 on this list is The Lakeside Cemetery by Jessica Haas. Now, Jessica has the BookTube channel, Jess the Book Freak. I highly recommend you check out her channel. This is her debut novel, and I was really surprised at how well done this novel really is. It's not perfect. You can definitely tell that this is Jess's first attempt at writing, um, but she has great characters. The pacing is good. Um, Maybe some awkward transitions between scenes, some awkward writing, but I mean, really, it's a really good story, and I highly recommend you check this book out. And last on this list is Dragons of Dwarven Depths. This is book 1 in the Dragonlance Lost Chronicle series. This was a buddy read with Beth Ann, and I really enjoyed this book. This book just missed a 5-star rating for me. There's a little bit that I didn't like as the novel progressed, but I love being back in this world with these characters again. And it was an absolute pleasure to read. That's my list for the best and worst reads of 2023. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.